Welcome, everyone. We'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Roll call.
Commissioners Brown.
Present.
Harris.
Present.
Herr.
Present.
McCracken.
Present.
Paris. Absent. Vice Chair Little.
Present.
Chairman Mercy. Absent. We have a quorum.
Could you all rise and Commissioner Harris will lead us in the flag salute.
If you all put your right hand over your heart and repeat with me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No presentations whatsoever. Has commissioners had a chance to review the consent calendar of September 14th?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a
Second.
motion by.
Second.
and a second by, all in favor? Our voting button's working now?
We are working today.
Awesome, awesome.
So I was absent last month, so,
Were you?
yeah, I stayed.
I don't think mine is working.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not. Okay, we can do a roll call vote, if that would be.
Sure.
Okay, we have Commissioners Brown,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Herr,
Stand.
McCracken,
Yes.
Vice Chair Little,
Yes,
and it passes unanimously.
thank you. Staff reports, LA County Sheriff's Department.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see everybody, commissioners, everybody. I'm sorry, I just want to first apologize for not being here last month. We had a rare station photo that we had to take, so I was unable to give you guys your proper stats for August, which I now have today. So I will be going over the August stats, and my new partner, Deputy Michael Figueroa, will be going over the September stats. I will introduce you to him shortly. So we'll start with the August stats. These are going to be the comp stats for the city of Lancaster. By the way, my name is Deputy Lawrence Green. If you don't know who I am your Community Relations Deputy for Lancaster Sheriff's Station. We'll start with the next slide. Oh, I have control over that. Homicides over a period of a year have gone down. We are averaging around 2 for the month of August. Rapes over a period of a year have gone down as well. We are averaging around 7 in the month of August. Robberies are down as well, averaging around 27 for the month of August. Aggravated assaults over a period of a year have gone up. We are averaging around 82. Our domestic violence related aggravated assaults over a period of a year have gone up, averaging around 11. Our burglaries over a period of a year for the month of August have gone down, averaging around 60. Larceny and thefts have gone down, averaging around 111 for the month of August. Grand theft vehicles have gone up, averaging around 88. Arsons over a period of a year have gone down, averaging around 4 for the month of August. These are going to be your hot spots for the month of August. If you look around, looks like it's going to be Avenue J, I believe. Over in the business district areas, you have a dark hot spot over there, right closer to the station, it looks like. And then you have over by Valley Central Way as well. Those are going to be your hot spots for larceny, theft. Those type of crimes are usually causing those dark red spots. You're going to see it change when we go to September, so you're actually going to be able to see a nice little reference and transition between August and September when I finish with the August stats. Does anybody have any questions regarding just the comp stats for now?
I had a quick question for
Yes.
you. On your numbers there, what actually makes a number? Is it a report or is it an arrest?
It's a stat actually. The stat codes generate depending on the crime, and then the computer generates saturation. So if there's a lot of something in one area, the darker the redder the color would be. So whether it be a bunch of larceny or thefts, Part 1 crimes, burglaries, things of that nature, the saturation will get darker in color. And it's usually a business district because of all of the temptation that's there, I guess you can say. And then the stats help generate it and convert it into this map
Okay,
per se. Any other questions?
thank you.
No? Okay. We're going to move on to our, oh, and by the way, those comp stats are digital, and they have definitions of each Part 1 crime. So if you don't know what a Part 1 crime is, please go to that last slide, and it will explain everything in detail of how that crime came to be.
Would we
Okay.
be able to get a copy of the report as well?
We have a digital report that I can definitely email it to you. That way you can
We used to
see.
get copies, right, Kathy? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. 100%. Okay, our crime commission report for the month of August. All right, all of our crime prevention techniques are used through social media, advertising, things of that nature. Missing persons, burglars, we can't identify. We actually put all the information out via social media because it makes it easier to spread the word to find the bad guy or girl, okay? We have Zoom meetings and workshops as well to discuss current trends in the city. Our total burglaries for the month of August was 18. In July, it was 15. Residential burglaries consisted of 7 for the month of August, which was 7 from last month as well. And then, from the previous month, I should say. Commercial burglaries were at 11 for the month of August, slightly up from 8 from the month of July. Robberies totaling 26 for the month of August, up from July, which was 19. Armed was 14. For the month of July, it was 19. And then strong armed, it was 12. In the month of July, it was very high. It was totaling 30, I think it totaled 38, somewhere around there. Okay. Our community engagement for the month of August, we had Tinker Village, we have National Night Out, and we had the Lancaster Station tours. The Lancaster Station tours are getting extremely popular because I'm having special needs adults, kids coming to the station to actually see how the station operates. We show them the ins and outs of the vehicles. We show them the detective bureau, the memorial. They learn a lot being there and what an actual police station consists of and how it works. All of our deputies are in uniform, so they get used to the way we look. They get used to showing that, hey, we're not in a 911 environment. We're in a calm, collective environment at our station. We can actually laugh with you, enjoy the time with you, whereas we don't normally have that opportunity when we're responding to 911 calls. So the station tours have been extremely popular. I'm getting a lot of phone call for station tours. I'm hoping we can continue doing it as long as my team is here and available to get that done. They get to meet the captain. They get to meet, about a bunch of watch commanders and people that you never get to see out in the field. National Night Out is huge. That one was taken in Antelope Acres. And it's nice because it brings everybody together, and it's conducted in the city, as you guys know, and on both sides of the county area. So awesome month for community engagement. That's all I have for this portion of the report. Do you guys have any questions?
Yes, I had a question. On the crime stats
Yes.
reports, I realize it's the city of Lancaster, but does any of that come from like unincorporated LA County areas, like in Quartz Hill, different pockets? Does that fall into that report, or it's left out?
I can answer that for you, Commissioner. The report that Deputy Green presented to you is strictly for city numbers.
Okay.
We do have the data for the unincorporated area also. We can send that to you if you're interested in looking at it.
That'd be good to know. I appreciate that.
And there, just to clarify one more thing, just to make it easier, potentially for you to understand, and it's in the definitions of the Part 1 and 2 crimes, but the way the numbers are calculated generally is crimes against persons are in the individual number of victims. Property crimes are per incident. So if that makes it, the numbers kind of fluctuate in that area. It's why you see some different fluctuations in the numbers, but it's generally crimes against persons, individuals, victims, each number. So you could have one incident with 5 victims, you'd have 5 occurrences.
Got you.
So
Now,
good
is
to
that
know.
based
Thank you.
on is that based on just a phone call coming in, reporting it, or an actual report being made, or an arrest being made?
actual report being written.
Okay.
Yes, and when we call in, we have tag numbers, right? So a tag number doesn't necessarily mean a report has been generated. It's just a phone call to document that a call has been made. Whereas an actual EARN or a report number shows that the crime did occur, right? So our stats are going to be based off of actual earns and not just, hey, I called in and notified you. Any other questions? All right, we'll go on to our LEAPS presentation. So LEAPS is continuing to run, and I'm always grateful for LEAPS. On the right side, you'll see green squares. Those green squares are going to represent the productivity of LEAPS, okay? I'm not going to read word for word anymore since it drags on. The arrests that LEAPS helped with will be 38 arrests that LEAPS helped with assisting on, 51 traffic stops, 19 burglaries and robberies, 51 fights and assaults, persons with a gun 17, and 19 other offenses of suspicious circumstances. We'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. %32 of these activities involved people, 20% involved arrests and detentions, 10% involved property, 28% involved vehicles, and 10% involved operations. Now, for those of you who don't know what the LEAPS program is, it is an airplane that flies over the city. It acts as our own personal aero unit, and it allows us to track active incidences without having to wait for aero to come over the basin to assist us. This is a very, very valuable program, and I cannot reiterate that enough. Without this, the amount of arrests that would lead to and the safety protocols would completely change. We don't have to go into pursuit if we can see and monitor the car from above and wait for it to park. We don't have to risk driving through streets, code 3, and risking the danger of people around us. We can wait, and we still get the arrest in the meantime. So I just want to reiterate, this program is extremely useful to the station. And I'm hoping, I know the representative is not here today, but I will hopefully get an update regarding the upgrade of the camera system on it and when that will occur.
Yeah, that was my next question, to see where we're at on that. 'Cause
I
last
can't
time we
wait.
worked,
Yeah, I don't have
last
any
few months,
updated.
We've been talking about that. Yeah.
Yes, and I get excited every time. So once they find out what that's going to consist of, I will definitely have that information
Great.
for you. Any questions on the LEAPS program?
Just one on that. Those are obviously assisting. So for instance, on your burglary numbers there, those aren't additional numbers. Those are included in the first set of numbers that you provided?
Yes, absolutely. So the programmer or the person that operates the LEAPS is inside of dispatch. They can control the camera and hear the calls going out for service as soon as they come in. So if we have an active burglar that's actually running from house to house or is maybe currently in a house, it would count as soon as we put in the address to where we need to fly to. So we would put in the address to an active burglar here on Yucca. They would put in the information to the pilot would then fly to that area, and then once he's in the general area, the person that controls the camera inside of dispatch can zoom in and then see the activity going on in the house. So we see him coming out of the window, immediate responses and updates as the patrol unit is arriving to the location.
And can you refresh our memory on how often LEAPS is up?
So LEAPS before was only up 3 hours at a time, and it was only for, it was 5 days a week, but only up for 3 hours at a time. The issue was getting pilots. Every pilot gets hours assigned to them for free, so they get to fly, get their hours calculated for flying for us. The problem is we were limited on pilots. And the response time was about, 2 hours, Commissioner Brown, I think, the last time we talked about it, because I believe you asked, what is the response time for an emergency late at night? How can we get a pilot up in the air? Well, the response time was about 2 to 3 hours to get a actual pilot to drive home, change, go to the Fox Airfield and get ready and get up in the air. He's trying to hire more people in order to keep it going, but that's difficulty. Pilots are rare. So that's the situation the LEAPS program is having right now, is trying to get
the pilots.
people manned to fly this thing at all hours of the day.
Okay, thank you.
Have they increased pilots at all? I mean,
I haven't talked to them, so I don't know what the status is as far as manning this airplane and keeping it up in the air.
What's the status of drones? Is this going to be the future of?
Yeah, that's a whole different world. It requires, privacy issues or another issue, things of that nature because of how accurate they are. we can't really, there's a whole nother setup for that.
I think I can add to that also.
Yeah.
The Sheriff's Department's current drone program is overseen by the Civilian Oversight Commission. They have pretty much all control over how we're going to be able to do that in the future. And it's up to them to decide how we can deploy them. Right now, we have a limited deployment that's all controlled by our Special Enforcement Bureau. They're the only ones who are trained to operate them. They're the only ones who are allowed to, and they have to get prior approval for every time they deploy. So,
If you were to speculate, what would you guess the future is?
I'd like to see them next year, but I don't know that that's going to happen.
They're an amazing tool. It's just, there's a lot of rules that you have to abide by, so.
Question, just out of curiosity, why is an airplane used instead of a helicopter? It
Well,
just seems like it'd be able to maneuver a lot more for all issues.
yeah, it can fly higher. So here's the issue. What's the first thing you see when you see a helicopter? You know they're over your house. You know they're there. You're low enough where they can shoot at it. So if you are way up in the air, you don't pay attention because there's airplanes flying all the time. So I can literally have our LEAPS unit go over an area, and the bad guy won't even know it's there because it's so high up, it doesn't bring attention. And I can zoom in so far that I can get his clothing description, possible race description, and direction of travel.
So a lot of I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
without affecting him just scattering. He can still be burglarizing the house, and he's still in one spot, whereas a arrow unit is going to hear the trrrr, and then he's gone. He's going to start running.
So consequently, you have a lot of people that are criminals that don't even know they're being tracked.
Yes, it makes it way easier to keep them in one area so we can get a containment done.
You mentioned the privacy issue as far as drones and compared to the LEAPs. Didn't we, when the LEAPs program came into effect, that was one of the major issues about LEAPs as far as privacy? So
Yes.
We've got around that.
Yes, because we're so high up in the air, you're going to have a top view, whereas a drone can see inside of windows. A drone can see in things that a airplane cannot see. And if you are in your own house, privacy is very important. And you don't want a drone to fly by, look in your window when you're bathing. You see what I'm saying? So there's way more technological aspects with a drone that can see things that technically we're not allowed to see. We want to see the crime, but I don't want to see nothing else. So we got to make sure that, we keep that in mind, which comes with policy and procedure.
Because drones are flying higher these days, because I understand that some of the stuff that they're taking aerial pictures with are as high as 5 miles high. So I was just kind of curious.
Lawrence, I might be able to help with this discussion. Is each one of the different platforms has advantages and disadvantages with it. The drones have a great capacity depending on what platform you use, but and the helicopters have a very limited capacity actually. And their advantage is that they can move more tactically. They can cover a greater area. It is a manned platform. The problem with it was the accessibility up here of helicopter deployment. The LEAP system is a very, very, very cost-effective stopgap in that, and the fact that it is a extremely high altitude platform. It does have a ton of advantages in that area. Mainly that it's cost-effective, and it's a very good deployment for us. It's helped us on a ton. You can see the numbers. It's helped us significantly, and it can take the place of the helicopter in a lot of things. And with the camera enhancements, it'll be even better because they'll be able to be later into the evening. We won't have to rely on ambient light and such
Yeah.
to make it work.
Great
But
program, yeah, I agree.
the drone issue is there's so many different platforms. The privacy issues also our Aero Bureau deals with those privacy issues all the time. They get complaints regularly about your pilot was looking in my backyard kind of thing regularly. So it's not something that we can dodge just because it's a manned platform.
Thank you, Cap.
How many other cities in California have a LEAPS, or are we the only one?
To,
yeah.
to my knowledge, in Southern California, we're the only ones.
Only ones that I know of, yeah. So when I saw this LEAPS program, when I first came to the station, I was trained on it as well, so I know how to man the cameras and stuff, but it was, I'm a techie, so I loved it. It was an amazing program, and I think all stations should have it, honestly. But
Absolutely.
So who's in charge of this program? Is the city, is it the city or sheriff?
I'm not sure.
It's a city-funded program.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So pilot, and they get paid by the city.
I can't speak to the business model that they're running on that, but that, I believe they're accomplishing several different things by having the pilots in there. Some training platforms and other things like that. And then the operators are funded through the program that the city funds. The camera operators that
camera
come to the
operator.
station.
I asked, and you just mentioned about the shortage of the pilots, you know?
Yes.
So maybe we can open to volunteers. There's a lot of pilots, they have a license, they can fly, and they're not doing anything.
I will give you the contact for who's accepting that as well as Bob. I will give you his email. I don't know how he would want you to advertise that, but yes, absolutely. The more pilots we have, the longer the plane can stay up in the air during different times of the day. But we do have to get that camera, the day-night camera fixed so we can get the night portion fixed because we don't have the technology right now for night. So that's very important that we get that upgrade as soon as possible.
And we don't know the time frame on that.
We don't. I got to talk to Bob to find out what that time
I
frame
know
would
the
be.
cost of, was a big issue at the time.
It was, yeah. The technology is very expensive. So. Any other questions?
Any other questions, commissioners? No?
No? Okay. I'm going to move on to the September report, and I will have Deputy Michael Figueroa introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Figueroa. I've been with Lancaster Station about almost 5 years now and have been in community relations since July. So I hope to be as articulate as my partner was as I go through this report, and I hope to answer any questions you guys may have. So here are the comp stats, again, as my partner described, for the city of Lancaster for September. So our homicides over a period of a year are right on average for the month of September as well at 2. The rapes over a period of a year for September were down under the average of 7. The robberies over a period of a year for the month of September were up over an average of 28. Aggravated assaults over the period of a year were up as well, over 83. Domestic violence related aggravated assaults over a period of a year were down of the average of 10. And burglaries over a period of a year were up as well over the average of 61. Larceny thefts over a period of a year were down in September. Grand theft vehicles were down as well for September. Arsons over the period of a year, average of 3, were down for September as well. And again, here's the crime plotted map my partner described. As you can kind of see, if we put them side by side, we don't have that now, but the areas are fairly consistent. And you can see the average of our calls for service in our report, well, not calls for service, but our reports generated do sit around that busy mid-city area, which our captain actually redeployed the city to try to address those issues and have more deputies working in those areas. Does anybody have any questions on the crime map or anything else they've covered so far? Okay, we'll move on. There's the UCR crime definitions. And we can move on to the next one. All right, so let's jump into this. So crime prevention, same things my partner covered earlier, social media, things like that. I think the best way, we always get hit up for like a missing person, and you can see sometimes missing persons, they get out very quickly up through our social media. It's the best way. People are constantly scrolling through Instagram, Facebook, and things get shared very easily. So we love that tool to be able to track down anybody who's missing or possibly IDing suspects. So our burglaries, and of course these are September over August, they're down to 6, residential 5, and commercial 1. The numbers were significantly higher, as you can see, in August. Robberies were up in the month of September, 32 over 26. We had the same amount of armed and strong arm, which was down over 38. So in community engagement, this is something I jumped into as a deputy sheriff in the field when I was working in the field. Like my partner described, you're in a 911 situation, you roll something hot, it's tough to explain to people why you're doing things and why we do the things we do. When we're out in the community and reaching out and talking to people, it's great because in this capacity, I'm able to explain like, hey, the reason why that person got put in handcuffs is you didn't hear that I got an update saying there was a gun involved. So I actually had this happen when I was working patrol. Everything was fine. We're talking, hey, person in the red sweater may possibly have a gun. So guess what? We're going to go address that person. Once everything's safe to do so, we can explain why we do things. So we're not just out there. It's important for the public to know we just don't grab and snatch people up for any reasons. We do it because we're reacting to things and updates we're getting on the radio. And it's not always the safest to explain to somebody what you're going to do before you take action. So some of the photos here, just what we had. This was a September 11th memorial, which is at the AV Mall. It was a good event. Our captain attended. And we obviously always want to honor our fallen heroes. And here is the LEAPS report for the month of September. They assisted in 30 arrests, 39 traffic stops, 14 burglaries or robberies, fights and assaults, and persons with a gun, and other suspicious crimes. So, as my partner alluded to earlier, working in the field, it's great because we don't always have an aero unit, LASD aero unit up. So, our dispatcher would be seated, right where green is, and our LEAPS, the guy who's running the plane, is literally seated here, about the same distance. So they'll go, hey, we got a call, 10th and I. And LEAPS guy doesn't even have to ask any more questions. Boom, just sends a plane. And immediately, we always ask, in the field, we will ask, is William 1 up? Or we'll just immediately, the desk will start giving information as a plane. Because the camera's pretty good now. Obviously, an upgraded system would be better. But they can almost give immediate updates to those in the field. So, because the communication line is just right here. There's no interruption in information from the camera to our dispatcher. They can get that out to the field, so it's a great tool to have. And whenever William 1 is up, that's what the code name we use it, 110 William 1. We'll always ask for arrow, but we'll always ask, is William 1 up? It's something that's constantly heard on the radio. It's either yes or no, but the field deputies know it's an asset, and if it's in the air, it's great for us to help us out, help track vehicles and things like that. So the property crimes responded to 7%, 43 involving persons, 12 with arrests and detentions, 16 involving vehicles, and 22 were general observation flights and visual protocols. My partner did a pretty good job of explaining what the LEAPS program does and its current capabilities and current things that, I'm trying to think of the word, things that need to be upgraded on it to help us out further, pilots and things like that. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions you guys may have.
Any questions, commissioners? No? Just a quick one, and it might be for Cap too. All the guns that are confiscated, are most of those been stolen guns, obviously, and numbers have been filed off, or are they guns that you can go back to the original owner on if they've been confiscated?
Actually, the trend currently has been the ghost guns, the polymer 80s
Okay.
that we're finding. That would be about, I think last month it was about 80% of the guns we recovered were
Wow.
the illegally manufactured
Wow.
polymer 80s.
Amazing.
There's, it's actually mind-blowing the number of guns that are floating around out there right now.
That's amazing to me, Cap, yeah. Wow. All right, and nothing else? Is there any chance, Kelly, we can have Bob here at our next meeting for the LEAPS program to give us a presentation? I'm sorry, Deb, yeah.
He normally is.
I know that, I know that.
I don't know if he's sick or what, but
Yeah.
I've yet to see him miss one.
I know, I agree with you. I was just curious, because there's a lot of questions that maybe we want to bring up, and it'd be great, so, thank you.
This polymer gun, is that what you call them?
Yeah, Polymer is the brand.
It's sort of new to me and fascinating, so it's, if anybody wanted to bring us in a little educational clip, I'd be very curious.
I'll show you exactly what it is after. Disassemble your firearm. Literally what it is just the lower frame is not registered, unserialized, it's not a weapon yet. It needs to be, you can purchase them legally and put a serial number on it and make it a legal weapon. But what happens with them, a Glock, you have a Polymer 80, which is unregistered, and you just put any Glock slide on it or anything that fits that, and it's instantly a working gun. It's the wrong way to go about it and put it together, but that's typically how they work. Extremely. You can make it right here on the table. There's no milling or anything required of them. It's just a part.
The catch on it is you can buy the parts without having to register any of them or report them to the government, to the state or the federal government that you're doing this. And there's a gap in the law on manufacturing that allows you to legally purchase those parts and assemble your weapon. And they're relatively inexpensive, actually, to do it that way. There's folks that are manufacturing the lower assembly portions of it. And then there's folks that are just buying them directly from the manufacturer, completing the milling that needs to be done on them. And then they have a functional weapon that's not registered, untraceable, doesn't meet the legal requirement that a manufacturer would have to do. So they're essentially an untraceable firearm.
Yeah. The parts individually are not a firearm. That's why they're sold. Independently, they're not a firearm. People will get these, join them together, and then you have a working weapon.
Have manufacturers, legitimate manufacturers, drifted in the direction of changing the way they make weapons because of this?
It's tough. I don't have an answer for that.
I don't think so. The things that I've seen about that is the legitimate manufacturers are trying to make it harder for the folks that are doing that aspect of the market. But the legitimate manufacturers have tons of other things that they're trying to overcome, the lawsuits and other things that they're addressing with their own firearms. So.
Yes, sir.
Deputy, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other
Thank
quick-
you.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Mr. Sepulveda, how are you, sir? Probation Department update.
Good morning, everyone. Hopefully everybody's warm and dry today. Had the pleasure this past month, to meet with Mr. Chatters III, the consultant for Lancaster. We talked about some collaboration with some of the misdemeanors and municipal codes and things of that nature with the people that are on probation. So we kind of went over that and spent an hour or so at my office. And we also gave him a tour of the mobile resource unit that we use 2 or 3 times a month out in this area. So he seemed to be impressed. He took some pictures, and maybe one day he'll share them with you guys. I wish I had some to share. As fancy as the sheriff's is, unfortunately, I'm not tech savvy. So I'm old school, I guess, if you will. But we had a good meeting. We had a nice chat, and we had a good exchange of some ideas and stuff to be supportive of one another and assisting the city any way we can. Hopefully, what I'd like to do, we have some probation officers that during your big events that maybe we could join with the law enforcement groups here that maybe walk the streets, just kind of be support in case we do run into someone that is on probation that we can assist with if there's violation stuff, and maybe in the future we could do that and be a part of the community natures of the holiday things that happen out here on, the city lights out and stuff like that. We'd like to be probably engaged in being more part of that. And that's something that we'd be probably interested in the near future. Our MRU is still going out in the community. We have a new location in West Lancaster. Seems to be gathering some steam, so we're seeing more people report to that location. And it gives them another opportunity to see their probation officer face by face. And it's less confrontational, I guess. So you have a little bit more willingness to come out and talk, and kind of like what you talked about when the sheriff's talked about seeing the sheriff station in a way where you're not in a 911 call. It's a little bit more at ease, and I think that they're a little bit more responsive to being in that, instead of being in an office or being at your house and you have this little unfortunate tension that comes with being supervised. We try not to make them uncomfortable, but of course they can be when there's something that's not completely right. We've had we had 3 early 6-month releases. For those of you that know the law of AB 109, you're eligible for early termination at the 6-month point if you meet some criteria. Criteria is basically being in compliance, obviously. Being employed may be one of the factors. As we do an initial case review, we set goals. Some people are very qualified to be back in the workforce sooner than others. So we set goals for them in a case plan, and if they can meet those things and they meet all the requirements and their risk scores aren't crazy high, there are opportunities for them to get off early. Not everybody will agree with that, but that's the law, and that's what we have to follow with penal code. The majority get off at 12 months. So the period is from 12 months to a year. Early termination is considered 12 months. A good percentage of them, I think we had 10 actually at 12 months last month that were. But of course, our numbers are starting to increase now as we're seeing people that were released out of custody. A good portion of them, a little bit higher than normal, we're seeing domestic violence, family violence cases being released from prisons that during the pandemic occurred, as we probably read or heard about. So those people are starting now to be released. The majority of them are men. So we're seeing those come out. So they're having a much more stiffer requirement as far as courses, classes, part of the rehabilitation and things of that nature. So we're supervising them a lot more closer. So which means that what we'll do with them in many cases is that we'll have them report accordingly once per month in person, maybe once out in their field, at their home, maybe at the resource center, but we're actually having them call in as well. And we're trying to keep more in contact with the victims as they occur. So that way we can have communication and still remain the victim advocates in the position that we are in as supervising the person that violated. We had 22 new releases that were orientated for our program. And again, remind you, this is not completely all of probation. This does include juvenile and adult. This just includes just AB 109. And we split these numbers with Palmdale for the most part. But I try to give you the Lancaster numbers for the simple reason that we are in Lancaster in this meeting. As I explained last month, we started our video release program, where prior to them getting released, they're going to meet their PO on a Teams meeting, Zoom meeting. They'll meet them from the start and hopefully continue to the time they end their program, so they get a head start about how to break that ice, get some valuable information, set some goals when they get out, and get true reporting standards and things of that nature. So right off the bat, so the process has started earlier, whether it's still in custody about 30 to 45 days prior to the release. We do have a GPS unit at our office. We have a new supervisor that just joined our office. They relocated him to our office, so we have somebody here in the area that supervises all GPS cases and the deputies that supervise those matters. So that's kind of a blessing for us because more and more courts are putting people on GPS in lieu of custody. So we're able to have them monitor. So about a year ago, we had one person doing the monitoring. It's a contract with Corrective Solutions. As of right now, we have 4.5 staff that are doing that now. So more and more are being released out of the courts on GPS. And so that's being done at our office. Not necessarily all of them are on probation. Some maybe once their cases are done and sought through, but we have, a 400% increase in our staffing for that in itself. We're being more aggressive with our special enforcement officers. Those are our armed units that go out and they're doing home visits, door knocks 5, 6 in the morning for high risk people that are on warrant status. We have one of our team members that is with the warrant unit with the Sheriff's Department that go out. So we're being more proactive. And those are unannounced. Those are true compliance checks. And we've taken some firearms out of the community and things of that nature by those visits. So every month we submit, every PO in my office submits a complex case, which means that if there's a red flag, we'll submit it. We submit it to those units, and then they'll dissect it and see, okay, where's the priority at? And so if someone's just doing completely off the charts or they're not being found, they're not reporting, there's a lot of little things going on that are identifiers saying that, this is gonna be a problem person. We'll identify them, we consider them complex, we'll send it to them, and then they'll go out and see and try to make contact with that person and hopefully either get it straightened out, see that there's nothing there, or if there is something there, then we'll take them into custody and submit the violation and things of that nature. So that's where we're at for the month.
Just on those complex cases, if a firearm is found, what happens to that individual?
Well, there's two things that could happen. In one case, we had a situation where someone was a security guard, their father was on probation with us, but they didn't secure their weapon. So even though that person was working, and this is an example of that question, but the father was not living there 100%, but he had access. So when they went to do the door knock, the weapon was laying on the floor on her safety belt, the security guard that was not on probation. But the father had access to it, so we had to book the firearm. This was in Palmdale, actually. We booked the firearm, violated the person, took him into custody. And unfortunately, it cost her probably some time off work because she didn't have her firearm to go to work in. But we can't take that risk by having someone that's on AB 109B have access to a true firearm with the clip in it and stuff like that. So we had to take that in. So normally, there's two things that could happen. We're going to violate them, but unfortunately, with AB 109, and this is something we don't agree with, but it is the rule of the law of California that we can ask for a maximum of 180 days on the violation. However, if new charges are filed, then whatever that criminal history engages with, they could actually send that person to prison if there's enough to follow. The DA probably be better to answer how that would work. Yeah, but it would be filed by the DA if there was a new charge filed. We'd ask that, so that would be normal procedures. So it'd be two courts involved possibly.
Any questions?
How many violations did you have, probation violations?
I think we had like 16 total, 14, I'm sorry, 14. And those range from anywhere from failing to report to a new charge, anywhere from an assault, a battery, resisting. It can be minor, it could be major. Nothing major. We had one critical incident report last month that was down in the LA area for someone that used to be up here, but they were in the process of being transferred and to the Long Beach area, and they had a little bit of a situation. So that was a critical incident report. That anytime we have a critical or high profile that hits the papers or shows up on the evening news, we have to notify in writing the history of that case to the Board of Supervisors.
And out of those 14, how many were repeats?
That I don't know. Mostly the ones that we have a repeats are mostly offenders that don't report. And that's stressful and frustrating, I guess probably a better word for the probation officer supervisor, where you get a person that consistently doesn't report. So you send them back to court, they go on warrant, they get picked up, they get released, and once again, they don't report. That's frustrating to us, but there's not a whole lot we can do, because the philosophy, it seems like, is, and when the law was brought into play, was if we can just get a hold of these guys and give them our resources, they will figure it out, and they will eventually, comply and do their thing. So, but some just takes longer than others. We've had some people with us for years, unfortunately, because of that history of just not reporting. We're going to have that percentage of people that say, I can continue on violating, they're not going to do anything to me. The courts will allow me to continue to have another chance, another chance, another chance. And some of them have proven that to be true, unfortunately.
And on your GPS, how many GPS devices are you monitoring?
I don't have that number because I'm not the supervisor for that division, but I would say, I wouldn't be surprised to see this. I would say at least 200 in the Antelope Valley, completely. At least 200. But again, many of those are just from the court saying, we're not going to put you back in custody. We're going to put you on GPS until you have your next court date as they're going through the process. That's where the increase is. They're not all on probation. So many times if they come to our office, I don't have jurisdiction over them because they're not on probation. They may eventually be, but at that time, they're not.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Question.
Sir.
On your domestic violence cases, how many times, I mean, what's the average of when a domestic violence case takes place, they're arrested, sent to jail, and they get released, they go back to the residence?
Well, they're usually not allowed to. You know, we're seeing probably more often now than I've seen in my career, stay with orders that are 10 years, you know, from the victim. So they're there. But most of the time, in our cases, the hard part for us is that if we get a victim to call us and says, hey, you know, this guy's, you know, my ex, whatever, is stalking me or whatever have you, without police contact, we can talk to them, but we have to be very careful in how we discuss this with that person, because what we don't want, and it goes back to the OJ situation, we don't want to tick that person off where he says, well, if I'm going to jail, or she says, I'm going to go do something now before they catch me. So it's a very, very sensitive approach on how we deal with victims and when there's nothing in writing. So if the sheriffs contact them, we have something to hang on to, then we'll violate them automatically. No problem with that. But when it's just somebody calling on the phone, we can't identify who that person is. That person can say they're the victim, they were the victim, but we really don't have a true way of verifying that. That happens about at least once or twice a month. I'll get a call like that. But we do our best to make sure that we can corral that person in and kind of choose our questioning as best we can, where we're not going to trigger him or her to go out and do something violent. So we try to get it to be, so it's a very tricky, tough situation in those cases.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Captain, CHP, Eric, how are you, sir?
Good morning, how are you?
Good, good.
All right.
Good to see you.
Good to see you guys, too. It's been a little while. So I'll give you the stats for October and try to contrast them with September. Year-to-date total for the Antelope Valley area, obviously we cover the entire valley. We've had a total of 39 fatal collisions, and that doesn't include within the city jurisdictions, obviously. This last month, we've had 7, and that's up 1 over September, where we had 6. The DUI-related crashes, not necessarily fatal collisions, but DUI-related overall, we had 14, which is down 5 over September. Our DUI arrests are up. We had 77 compared with 65 last month. And then our vehicle thefts went up quite a bit as far as the number of arrests. We made 12 arrests last month. That's up 8 over September. And our recoveries of stolen vehicles was 6, which is down 1 from September. We've had, our pursuits have gone down. I don't have the exact numbers of our pursuits on this particular sheet, but I know we haven't had as many as we were having earlier on this year, which is good. And we have also come across some ghost guns out there ourselves on people and taken those. The homeless contacts were down. We have had 42 last month, but we were up 80 and 78 the prior 2 months. So I think with the colder weather, maybe they're not wandering up onto the freeway as much as they were during the summer. So we continue to work with the Sheriff's Department, both Lancaster and Palmdale, with the AV Traffic Task Force and doing monthly SEUs or special enforcement details that we do within the cities, and we kind of rotate. So we do one in Lancaster, and then we'll do one in Palmdale, and then we'll do one in unincorporated area, and kind of rotate those around. And those have been working out really well. We also are assisting each other with the DUI checkpoints, and so we'll have, we usually, of the ones that we do, we'll try to do half of them in the city, and then half of them outside in the unincorporated area, and then the sheriffs will usually send a couple people to help us with ours, and then we'll send a couple people to help them when they do their checkpoints, and that's been working out really well. We've been doing these drug take-back events with the DEA in the area, and that's actually been resulting in, I don't have the pounds with me, but hundreds of pounds of medications and drugs have been dropped off at those events, which I think is a good thing. And we've been doing those semi-monthly, I believe. So we are getting ready, we're gearing up for our Chips for Kids program for this year, which is a kind of a big deal for us. We typically collect somewhere between, 10 and 15,000 toys and we keep them all here in the local Antelope Valley. So we'll be all over doing those collections. I like to get our officers out there too, just to kind of get them to interact with the community. Along with our senior volunteers, we're up to 34 senior volunteers now, which is huge for us. They do a lot of things to help our station out and supplement our people and deploy our radar trailer. And they do, I could list things for the next 20 minutes if I went on about all the things the seniors do for us. So they've been great. And then just to let you guys know this, depending on if we have a meeting in December, which I'll be here if we do, but if not, this might be my last meeting here because I getting a promotion and I'll be going up to Sacramento. So just to kind of give you guys a heads up on that. I'm not sure who would replace me, but I did bring my lieutenant with me sitting back here. This is Joe Saunders. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to meet him yet, but hopefully after the meeting you guys can get a chance to meet him. But he may be acting commander for a while depending on when they do replace me, but it's effective January 2nd, so we have some time. But just to give you a heads up. And that's all I have unless you guys have questions.
Well, we're gonna miss you in that case, but a quick question, how many officers are you down? I know last month you gave us a report on that, or?
Yeah, we're still down. Right now, we're about 7 below what our allotted staffing is, and the things are starting to look up, though. The department-wide is doing a huge recruitment push, as are all law enforcement agencies are right now, but everyone's having the same difficulties with the dwindling pool of applicants, and then the quality of applicants, and trying to figure out how to make sure we still get good people that want to do it has been difficult, but I do know that the funding is there, and the governor's office has approved us to hire 1,000 new officers, which would be huge for the department, because we're still at 1970s levels, and it's tough when you think about the number of registered vehicles and people that have kind of overwhelmed the resources that we have. So we do the best we can with the people that we do have, and we do hold our people accountable to going out there and being as effective as possible when they're out there, just because without that, we would get, we're on the verge of being overwhelmed with all the complaints we get about the 14 freeway and the drivers on the 14.
Oh, yeah.
And, when there's only so many of us out there, we do the very best we can. And when we are out there, we do make a lot of stops and take the appropriate action. But like I said, we just can't be everywhere.
Appreciate everything you do, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month because we do have a meeting, so.
Okay, great. I'll be here.
Good.
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Eric, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I was, if I could just, you mentioned the applicant pool.
Yes.
You say the quality of applicants is going down, up? How is it changing and why would it be changing?
Oh, there's a lot of different things. I mean, you have less people that are interested in law enforcement in the last couple of years, just with the negative sentiment and, media coverage and different things that have happened that are, happening nationwide, not just specific to California. That affects people in their decision-making, so you have less people. And when you have less people for any position, then obviously the quality's got to go down, right? Because if you had 1,000 people to pick from as opposed to 100, just the laws of math, you're going to have less more qualified applicants. So, trying not to lower the standards to a point where, it starts affecting us, but at some point you got to, it's a kind of a moving target, as far as how we find the right balance and get the right people in there that aren't going to, and I know the sheriff's department is struggling with the same issues, and we're competing for the same people. So it's tough on all of us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other? Mr. Sherwood.
Morning. Just to follow up on that, just to kind of give you an idea, with our office, we were getting 1,000 applicants when we would open it up. I think the last round we got 150. So we're down 5 or 6 from what are our budgeted positions, and that's just because we don't have the staff, so I'm told, to fill those spots. So I think all of us are struggling with with staffing. But on a good note, I have the numbers, our filing numbers for September and October. We were behind a month last month, and I know we were filing more than our average, but I think we're back in line with a few exceptions. So for arsons, we only average less than 1 a year. We had none. We filed none in September, none in October. Auto burglaries, over September and October, we averaged 8. The yearly average is 12, so down on filings for auto burglaries. Residential, commercial burglaries, over the last 2 months, the average was 7.5. The yearly average is 8, so right in line there. Criminal threats, we filed 2 in September, 9 in October. Average was 4.5. That's right in line with our yearly average. Drug sales, we filed 2 in September, 3 in October, which is right in line with the yearly average of 4. Domestic violence are still up, 11 in September, 8 in October, and our average is yearly average per month is 7. So up in September, up in October. Evadings, we only average 1, and we had 0 in September, 1 in October. Felony assaults are down 7 in September, 8 in October. Yearly average is 12. Felony DUIs, 1 in September, 2 in October. Yearly average is 1. Grand theft, we had average for the 2 months of 4, which is a yearly average. Illegal firearms, again, right in line with yearly average, 15 in September, 14 in October. Yearly average is 14. We were up in September with murders or attempted murders. We had 6, 2 in October, which is the yearly average. Robberies, we were at 9 in September, 6 in October. Average is 8.5, so right in line there. Sex crimes, average for 4 in September, 5 in October. Yearly average is 5, so right in line there. Vandalism, felony vandalism, we were 4 in September, 1 in October. Yearly average is 3, so right in line there. So we're back, I think, pretty close to what our yearly average is for most crimes except for, well, not except for, but murders and attempted murders, and then the domestic violence cases were up. So that's all I got, unless you have questions.
Well, it seems like more work and less people, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because, obviously we're not filing a lot of misdemeanors. That tends to be where our staffing shortage is primarily right now. So we're having to prioritize, probably just like the Sheriff's Department and the Highway Patrol, with the more serious felonies. So I'm trying to shift resources into that, but it does impact our ability to prosecute some of the lesser crimes. And if you believe in the broken windows approach to policing, that's a problem. So, but we have to focus our resources on the more serious violent crimes. So that's what we're doing.
I had a question. It looked like there was about 77 arrests made for DUIs, but only about 1 or 2 being prosecuted. Is there
That may
why does the number seem so low?
Yeah, that probably includes misdemeanors. This is only felony
Okay.
DUIs. I can get you the misdemeanor DUI numbers, but we've just kind of focused on the felonies.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions for Mr. Schuler?
No, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Always, thank you. Jocelyn's out, correct? Okay. Public Safety Rod's out today, but we got Tracy Stewart.
Good morning, Vice Chair Little and Commissioners. Rod gave me some information. He obviously wasn't able to be here today, but he passed on some information for me to give to you. He wants you to know the hybrid is progressing. And last month, he took a trip to Chicago PD. They have a district policing program, which is having a great deal of success. So he went to take a look at that program. Last night, the council approved the Public Safety Department to purchase 50 flock cameras that will be installed in areas across the city. The cameras are stationary and automated. He also wanted you to know they're installed in thousands of cities across the U.S., including many in Southern California, and they are seeing a great success. And next month, he'll do a presentation on the flock program for the commission.
That's
And
great.
that's all I've got.
Casey, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Great. Legislative offices update. How are you?
Good morning. I'm Jackie Owens with the Office of Congressman Mike Garcia, and it's an honor to be here. Congressman is a huge fan of our law enforcement and just has an unwavering support, so thank you. Thank you for all you do and that you don't give up. We appreciate that. We had this little thing called an election yesterday, so we are pretty sure that you'll be stuck with us for another 2 years. Although that's my words, not the congressman. He's an extraordinary representative. And one of the things he's very, very passionate about is supporting our law enforcement and public safety. He's a father, and he spent, almost 2 decades protecting our nation. So national security and security at home is very important to him. So in earlier this year, he met with he had a roundtable meeting, and that included the DEA, California Highway Patrol, LA County Sheriffs, and as well as LAPD. It was held in the South Valley area. And the topic was fentanyl. And this goes hand in hand with his efforts to combat and to address the border issue, because a lot of that is coming over the border. But unfortunately, one of the sad statistics is Santa Clarita is leading LA County in deaths for young people with fentanyl. Our kids, they think our parents, as a parent, you think our kids are home, they're in their bedroom, they're safe. But these kids are ordering what they think is Oxy online, and it's laced with fentanyl, and the parents go up to wake them up for school the next day, and they're not waking up. It is an epidemic. It's up 1,700% from 2020 in the stats I've read. It's something that the congressman is taking very, very seriously, and he's using as much of his influence in Congress to get funding for our law enforcement officers, men and women, to combat this. But he's also very passionate, recognizing that we have to address the border issue to stop this from coming over. So that's primarily what I've got to report on, unless you have any questions. All right.
Any questions? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for all you do.
Assembly Lackey's office? Senator Wilkes' office?
Yes, Lackey's office is here. I would just like to say that the Assemblyman came last month and gave a fine report. Firsthand, you asked lots of great questions. I have very little to report except that he had a great month with community engagement and highlighting, speaking at 6 different high schools, and his community coffees and the art show for the kids. It's been a fantastic month. Yes, it was Election Day yesterday, and we are very hopeful that we will also be sticking around for a couple more years. It's looking good, and the Assemblyman will be in Sacramento tomorrow to take care of some business there, and we'll be back in the district then for Veterans Day. We're looking forward to a lot of the celebrations there. And I thank you very much for the opportunity to make a report.
Thank you.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You're looking good, man.
Thank you. Sean Cannon, representing the Office of Senator Wilk. There's not really much to report other than a little recap from last month. Again, the legislature adjourned the 2022 session on September 1st. The governor had until September 30th to sign or veto any bills that were passed. The legislature will reconvene for the 2023-2024 session again on December 5th. where they're going to be addressing the high gas prices first, but officially it will be reconvened on the 5th. And during this fall interim, our offices are now accepting legislation ideas. So we're open to any ideas that you have from the commission. Our office is open. The senator is looking at doing some things in regards to domestic violence and foster youth, and to see how we could work on the state level for that. And so our office is open to hearing the commissioner's perspectives as well as the community's perspective. And that's all.
Any questions? Sean, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Kathleen?
There are no speakers at this time.
Okay, then that makes it easy. Commissioner comments? Anything?
No comment.
Okay, well then, we'll adjourn till Wednesday, December 14th at 10 a.m.